Hello and a very warm welcome to another edition of Talking Germany, the show where we do just that. And our guest today is a man who's remarkable for two different reasons. Firstly, in these very troubled economic times, he's the head of a highly successful, internationally operating company that produces state-of-the-art hearing aids. And he's also the president of the Hannover 96 soccer club that plays in Germany's top-flight Bundesliga and has, without a doubt, just endured the most turbulent and emotionally wrenching season in its history. So, without any further ado, here he is, Martin Kind.
Hello, Mr.
Thank you very, very much for joining us today on Talking Germany. Now, with Martin Kind, we can look forward very much. Businessman and soccer president. Let's begin with business first. You're the head of a company that is typical for what they call here in Germany the Mittelstand, the small and medium-sized companies that are really the backbone of the German economy. Let's begin with you telling us what are the values behind the Mittelstand.
Vielleicht darf ich erst einmal sagen, die Großindustrie ist unglaublich wichtig für die deutsche Volkswirtschaft.
First of all, I could say that heavy industry is very important for the German economy. Don't get the wrong idea about me. But as far as small and medium-sized firms go, they're very important for the German economy. They create a lot of economic value. They employ a lot more people than heavy industry. They're very innovative, very creative, a very important source of taxes, and they play an important role in vocational training. A very high percentage of small and medium-sized companies are involved in education.
Wichtig, weil die höchste Quote auch an Ausbildungsbetrieben oder Ausbildungsplätzen.
In addition to that, it's common for small and medium-sized companies to be owner-run. In my view, these entrepreneurs clearly function as role models.
Okay, so they are the values, some of the values behind the Mittelstand. Germany is good at business, it's good at the export business, it's also very good at soccer. Yeah? Is it the same values that make Germany a soccer powerhouse that are the values you've just been talking about in the Mittelstand?
Well, I think you have to take a balanced view of that. In the business world, it has to do with professionalism, innovation, creativity, and the willingness to develop products for export, and setting up the necessary distribution networks around the world. That explains part of a company's success. In football, it's the other way around. I think the fact that German football is generally attractive and successful has a lot to do with the fact that we bring a lot of players from abroad.
The whole of Germany was shocked by the death of Robert Enke. But it wasn't just Germany, outside Germany as well. Very, very many people were shocked by what happened there. The players at your club, Hannover's 96, were traumatised, I think it's fair to say. Were you traumatised?
Ich glaube nicht.
I don't think so.
Ich war erschüttert.
I was devastated. And I knew Robert Enke very well personally. I was deeply shaken that I knew nothing about his illness all those years. And then the tragedy of him taking his own life. But at my age, it's hard to shock anyone. It was different with the players, though. They're youngsters, unprepared for a subject which is as difficult as death. I think the team was traumatized.
As I understand it, you're talking about the players in your team. They were traumatized. You brought in professional help, counselling and what have you, psychological help. Many of the players, this is my understanding of the situation, said, no, we are man enough not to need this advice, this assistance. Was that a good decision on their part?
It was their own decision. We had to respect it. And it led to a debate about whether to bring in a sports psychologist to treat the team.
betreuen wir die Mannschaft sportpsychologisch oder
It took
nicht?
us 2 months to make
Dieser
that
Prozess
decision.
hat 2 Monate gedauert. Wir haben im
And then in
Januar
January, we agreed to bring in a sports psychologist.
betreut werden, psychologisch.
In the end,
Es hat
the
sich
players were able to get the
weiterentwickelt,
treatment that they
dass
wanted.
Nur die Spieler,
And all in all,
die Betreuung in
I'd say that the decision had to be made, and it was the right decision.
Im Ergebnis kann man sagen, es war notwendig und es war auch richtig.
A difficult matter in all this is that Robert Enke was he was a remarkable person. There is no doubt about that. But some people have begun to sort of view him almost as a hero-like figure. You're not comfortable with that?
Ja, das ist eine ganz schwierige
That's a difficult
Frage.
question.
War ein unglaublich
He
guter
was an
Torhüter.
excellent goalkeeper.
War
He was the best in
Deutschlands Nummer
Germany.
1.
He was the sympathetic face of Hannover Football Club.
96.
And he was a
War
good
ein
person.
liebenswürdiger Mensch. Aber ich sage das auch.
But I have to say that when someone takes their own life, then it's difficult to deal with. You have to take a very balanced approach when dealing with it.
Sicher differenziert diskutieren.
We've mentioned it already. You're in charge of the sports club, you're in charge of a company at the same time. While all this stuff was happening at Hannover, this very difficult, traumatic, these events, there was an economic crisis going on at the same time. Was your company sort of struggling? Was your company under pressure at the same time? Did you have a double burden?
Zum Glück
Luckily,
nein.
that's not the case.
Das war
We saw this in 2008 and 2009, and this year as well.
Aktuell im Jahre 2010 erleben.
The healthcare industry doesn't appear to be affected much by economic
Von der
developments.
volkswirtschaftlichen Entwicklung abgekoppelt ist.
It's hard to say how long this can go on,
Lässt sich nicht wirklich
but
einordnen.
recent years have shown that we're separate from the rest of the economy.
Eindeutig, wir sind
Our industry has even seen periods of growth.
Wir haben sogar Wachstum. Gegenphasig konnten wir Wachstum erreichen.
Good news on that front, at least. The other good news for Martin Kind was that Hannover, as we saw in our report, it was a very close thing, managed to avoid relegation. But this season that has just finished will always be remembered as nothing short of traumatic, as we've seen. Now, the next question, I suppose, is this. Did all the soul-searching that followed Robert Enke's death have any impact at all on the often overheated and overcharged world of Bundesliga soccer? I go to lots of Bundesliga soccer matches and the atmosphere is very, very good, very amicable. The question nevertheless remains, is there too much pressure, too much aggression in the Bundesliga?
Auf jeden Fall sind Aggressionen.
Of course, there's still an issue with aggression. Your example clearly demonstrates that.
Das ist nicht
It's
akzeptabel.
unacceptable, and we need to find answers.
Antworten finden. Hier ist der
It's up to the German Football Association, the individual clubs, and society as a whole to find the necessary answers and to reject violence.
Und,
Fans have to learn that you can lose as well as win.
und die Menschen
And when you lose, then you need decency and fairness, and violence must be rejected.
Ist hier Anstand und Fairness geboten. Und die Gewaltbereitschaft ist abzulehnen.
It's important what you're saying because obviously some of that violence was at clubs like Bochum and Hertha Berlin, the local club here in the German capital, which were both relegated, and that was perhaps a response among the fans to that violence. If Hannover had been relegated, would the fans have turned on you?
Also es hätte auch Reaktionen.
There would have been a reaction.
Vielleicht nicht ganz
Maybe not quite as aggressive as at Bochum.
in Bochum. Das
But that
hängt
depends on the
ganz
special
mit der
situation this year
Situation
and the tragedy of Robert
dieser
Enke.
Saison zusammen und der Tragödie Robert Enke. Ansonsten
Otherwise, I'd imagine that there would be a clear reaction from the fans. And it seems relegation is not acceptable.
wird scheinbar in der Bundesliga abgelehnt.
It wouldn't have been fair if they had have turned on you. You've put 12, 13 years of your life into Hannover.
Ja, das kann man persönlich so bewerten.
I could give a personal opinion,
Aber die Fans
but the fans only judge the current season, and they're only interested in wins, defeats, and avoiding relegation.
Niederlage, Klassenerhalt, Abstieg.
I think that's what fuels the reaction.
Schreibt die Reaktion.
Soccer is, in large measure, about money these days. Just give it, you're a businessman, so give me a figure. If Hannover had been relegated, how much would it have cost the club? How much does it cost a Bundesliga club to go down?
It means losing a lot of money.
Sehr viel Geld.
The turnover would be down by more than a half. That means we have to cut costs by more than a half, and that's a painful process.
Und das ein schmerzhafter Prozess.
Let's talk about something just a wee little bit different, but staying on soccer. Let me give you a list of names. Kroos, Özil, Badstuber, Müller, Aogo. I could go on. In Germany, there's a remarkable it's a bit unexpected. There's a new generation of young players coming through. It's a good thing for German soccer. Is there a new generation of young German entrepreneurs coming through? Business people?
I'd say most of the people you've named are the children of migrants. Most were born here, grew up here, and started their football careers here. Football offers an opportunity for success. There are a lot of migrants' children in football because they have a good chance of earning a lot of money and they're accepted in society.
That is an interesting explanation. OK, Germany, there's no doubt about it, faces two big challenges currently. Firstly, maintaining its status as a strong trading nation. Secondly, understanding the challenges posed by the financial crisis and coming to grips with the problems that it throws up. Now, there are many people who argue that it will only be possible to come to terms with those challenges if and when young Germans start learning the basics of business and economics while they're still at school. What do you say? Should German kids be learning about credit and debt, inflation and growth and all these kind of things at school?
Yes, unreservedly. I think it's important, and in my view, business should provide the skills to provide quality employees for the lessons. That will reduce costs for the state, as well as providing a very high degree of knowledge. That should help the regeneration of the economy, because we have the problem that there is a lot of misconception about the way the economy works. So I support it unreservedly.
When you talk about these misunderstandings, these Missverständnisse, I'm interested, should young German kids, in your opinion, well, bright German kids at schools, 16, 17-year-olds, should they be learning, we've gone through an economic crisis, should they be learning a critical perspective on business and economics or an uncritical perspective?
Judgment has to be critical or it makes no sense at all. We have to transfer knowledge, and they have to arrive at their own judgments and opinions on the basis of that knowledge. That's the only way it makes any sense.
And your company, we have learnt, is doing very well at the moment, despite the crisis. Just give me an impression of many people in Germany, it happens in other countries as well, are all saying, well, the younger generation today, they're no good, they're not focused, they can't concentrate, they can hardly read and write when they're, all these things are said. You must have good, ambitious, hungry people coming to your company.
First of all, I don't share that view at all. Every generation has its own great talents. The task is to recognize those talents and to encourage them. But this idea that the current generation isn't a good one is spread by the older generation, and it doesn't make any sense. There's nothing wrong with the young generation. A lot of youngsters are very dedicated. We should be happy. I think that companies and older people first have to learn that every generation has its own language and goals. We have to accept that and encourage the potential that's there. That's the important challenge.
Wise words from Martin Kind. Now, one thing that Martin Kind knows about probably more than many people, he's a real expert in acoustics, he's an expert in sound, he's an expert in noise. Martin Kind was just sitting here shaking his fist. He says, what did you say? Yeah?
Your report with the children is downright bizarre and in pretty bad taste.
Is that a very German thing?
I don't know, but it seems to focus too much on the German aspect.
Yeah. Are you a noise-sensitive person?
No, not really.
It's interesting because you're somebody who has studied noise, you have studied sound, yeah? I'm a noise-sensitive person. When somebody at the other end of my apartment is pouring coffee in the kitchen, I can hear the coffee, more or less. Yeah, very sensitive. Talking about myself, I'm from a generation that grew up with little earpieces in my ears, listening to a Walkman many years ago and what have you. Was that a mistake?
It's a technical product, the result of a development process. But the noise, the sound pressure of the system is very high, 120 decibels and higher. As a constant noise, that will cause damage. That's why I recommend reducing the starting pressure. The kids don't like it because it isn't cool, but the danger of ear damage is real. Sound at a continuous high volume is dangerous.
Okay. But just one question I'd like to follow up. I've just gone past 50. Are you getting a lot of people who are sort of my age? Statistically, is there an increase in people who are needing hearing aids as a result of this practice over the years? Yeah?
Statistically and realistically.
So it's good for business?
What's bad for one person is good for another. That's life. There'll always be a market for hearing aids.
We've talked about the younger generation in soccer and in business. We've talked about how people have to learn, how people have to be flexible in this day and age. You've had a long career in business. What have you learnt about yourself in that period?
A lot. You face a lot of new challenges, which you have to solve successfully. You get to know a lot of people, and when you listen to them, you can learn a lot. And that keeps you young. You have to face the challenges of life, your profession, the competition, changes and shaping the changes. You have to face the challenges, and then life is fascinating and can be a lot of fun.
Wow. The world according to Martin Kind. OK, we've got, at the end of the show, we normally move through to our Talking Germany quiz, where I give you sort of a choice of two, more or less, yeah? Soccer, is it a game or a business?
Both.
When you relax, and I know you do you listen to the Rolling Stones or Bruce Springsteen? You like them both?
Auch beide.
Both.
Is life competition or compromise?
Auch beide.
Both again.
Oh! Are Hannover going to finish in the top 10 in the Bundesliga next time round?
I hope so.
Me too. Yeah? I wish them all the very best. That's your lot from our latest guest here on Talking Germany, Martin Kind, a man of at least two worlds, business and soccer. If you've enjoyed his company as much as I have, then do come back next week. Until then, cheers. Thank you.